Do We Have to Go Now? Challenges in Foster Care Adoption. Carly Cruzado, Amanda Decker, Joubert Duval, and Miranda Olson.
Step 1. Present relevant case data and your role in working with the client system. The present case involves a married couple, Reverend Elijah Parker and Mrs. Mary Parker. This couple is esteemed in their church community and has expressed their interest or calling by God to adopt children through the foster care program. As a social worker facilitating this case on behalf of the state's Family and Children's Bureau, I will be assessing the case and their adoption of 3 children named James, Paul, and Miriam. In assessing the couple, they appear to be good-hearted and have the best intentions. Many times, potential parents do not understand the requirements and commitment necessary when adopting children who have a history of abuse. And in the case of James, Paul, and Miriam, they were exposed to substance abuse due to their mother's addictions. This couple's good intentions are displayed through their high level of commitment to this area of adoption and can be acknowledged in other areas such as their active participation in their local community's advocacy. They have also taken initiative in understanding the process of adoption by speaking with members of a neighboring church about their experience with adoption through the foster care system. They were knowledgeable of the educational workshops, trainings, home visits, examining home conditions, background checks, physical exams, fire inspections, and water testing. Reverend and Mrs. Parker also participate in a support group with other families who are looking to adopt from the foster care system as well. It is evident that they have a heart for these African American children. Mrs. Mary Parker even said, "As African Americans, we need to care for our own. How can we ask others to care for our children?" This family also displayed strong morals and values based in their strong religious affiliations and practice. As a social worker for this case, the main goals include putting the children in a stable and safe home, guiding the foster parents through the children's transition into the home, and evaluating the process of this transition. In achieving these goals, as a social worker, I will fulfill a number of roles. The first is that of an educator. This role will allow me to educate the parents of the requirements and responsibilities of adoption. The second role is trainer, which involves preparing the family for a new life with these children through workshops and trainings. Another role involves that of a mediator, ensuring peace, progress, and problem solving in the relationships between the children and parents. Lastly, the role of advocator is one of the most significant roles that I can practice in this case. As an advocator, it is my responsibility to constantly defend and look after the children and their rights in the foster care system. Step 2. Identify the problem and factors that contribute to the problem. Discuss any social isms that shape the problem. Identify the facts for the case. The main problem in this case involves Reverend Parker wanting to discipline Paul, the middle child, by physical means. According to the Reverend and his wife, they have the ethical right to do so by their religious doctrine. They are convinced that Paul is deliberately acting out by stealing food and storing it in his room. While it is not uncommon for children who experience abuse and neglect to display this behavior, the Parkers believe that a sufficient amount of time has passed, and by now Paul should have adjusted like his 2 other siblings. The ethical dilemma in this case is that while the Parkers have a right to believe this, according to the rules in adopting within the foster care system, they are unable to reprimand the child through physical display of discipline without major repercussions in their agreement of the adoption. It will be likely that the child or children will be taken away and an investigation will be pursued. It is evident that the Parkers embrace and care for the children, but this is a matter that is complicated. A social ism present in this case is religiosism. Dictionary.com defines religiosism as an excessive or exaggerated religious zeal. Because the Parkers feel so strongly about their rights as parents from a biblical perspective, this can be seen as a social ism from the secular perspective of the foster care agency or organization.
Step 3. Identify the ethical issues, including the social work values and duties that conflict. There are many ethical issues that are of concern in this example. The social worker, Sarah Roberts, is not a Christian herself. However, her client, the Parker family, are very religious, with the father being a reverend. Reverend Parker states that he uses scripture to justify his view of physically punishing his children. Since Miss Roberts is not a Christian, it is a dilemma for her to explain to Reverend Parker that despite what the Bible may tell him, there are rules and regulations to abide to. Another very prevalent ethical dilemma is how to handle Reverend Parker with disciplining his new foster children. Miss Roberts may feel conflicted about how to handle the situation due to the many different areas a decision can affect. There is an ethical dilemma with the value of service. Does Miss Roberts effectively serve the children by reporting Reverend Parker? Would that cause more harm to the children than care? This ethical dilemma also brings up the question of the importance of human relationships. Is it more important for Miss Roberts to keep the children in the home, despite how Reverend Parker might discipline them, or should she break those ties the children have built with the family because of this one issue in the past 8 months? There is a major concern when dealing with this ethical dilemma. Miss Roberts' integrity might lead her to tell on Reverend Parker and have the children removed, or her integrity could have her ignore the issue since it's the first major problem that has developed and it does not seem to be too serious. Step 4. Identify the individuals, groups, and organizations that are likely to be affected by the ethical decisions. Try to understand what is at stake for them. Miss Roberts is someone who will be affected by the decision. Ultimately, whatever happens, Miss Roberts has to live with whatever decision she makes. This could affect her reputation and ultimately her job within the agency. Reverend Parker and Mrs. Parker will of course be affected by any decision that is made. Either they keep the children but cannot raise them the way they want, or they get their license taken away and are not allowed to foster children, despite the fact they felt led by God to adopt. The children would be most affected by any decision. They are in the most stable living condition they have had, and to lose that, again like in the past, could make things worse. However, to let the children stay with the family when they might use physical punishment against rules and regulations would be harmful, and it could cause further problems. The church could be affected since Reverend Parker also got many other families from his church to adopt foster children. So these families and the church as a whole will be affected. If a decision is made to take the children from Reverend Parker and take away his license, the other members of the church might no longer support the agency and no longer want to foster children as well. The Family and Children's Bureau may lose their reputation and their newly formed relationship with the church. To keep the peace could mean putting their reputation at risk for not placing children in an appropriate home. However, to end the children's stay with the Reverend could cause religious tension as well as a potential drop in Christian families supporting the agency. Step 5. Tentatively identify all possible courses of action and the participants involved in each, along with the possible benefits and risks for each. The first option may be that Miss Roberts may be led to allow Reverend Parker to discipline the foster children through spanking and turn her cheek in order to keep this perfect case she has created for herself. The children, especially Paul, could be in a situation that feels similar to what caused them to be placed in foster care in the first place. This could bring back tragic memories for the children and have them fall back from all the progress they have made. Benefits could be that Miss Roberts keeps her perfect case, the children stay in a stable home, and the agency continues their relationship with the church and Christian community. Risks include allowing the family to punish the children will harm the children due to their past experience. It will also ruin the reputation of the agency if something was ever discovered. Miss Roberts could lose her job for allowing the children to remain with a family she knew was not an appropriate placement. Reverend Parker could suggest to other parents in the church to punish their children the same way, and this could be spreading the harm to other children in other homes. Option 2 is that Miss Roberts could talk to Reverend Parker about what is appropriate and not appropriate punishment with foster children. Miss Roberts would have to remember not to focus on his religion. She could discuss what would happen if she found out that Reverend Parker was using physical discipline on the children. The benefits of this option allows Miss Roberts to make sure she educates Reverend Parker on all his options. This way also allows for the children to stay in the home and for the agency to continue their relationship with the church and the Christian community. The risks include Reverend Parker agreeing to follow the rules. However, he might be led to follow God's authority above Miss Roberts and punish the children the way he wants and not disclose this information to Miss Roberts. This is causing harm to the children, especially if Reverend Parker threatens them that they will leave if anyone says anything. This could make for a very hostile environment for the children. Option 3 is that Miss Roberts could lead an investigation to see if any physical discipline has already been done. This investigation could potentially have the children taken from Reverend Parker's home, even without anything having been done. The benefits of this option allows for the safety of the children and makes that priority. It also makes sure that there are no gaps in the home placements of children. The risks include having the children leave the home is continuing to show them the unstable living conditions. It also has the risk of ruining future partnerships with the other churches and Christian organizations. It ruins Reverend Parker's reputation for having his foster children taken away and could lead him to lose his job or church members to leave. Also, the other church members could not want to adopt the children because of what would be happening with Reverend Parker.
For option 1, the ethical theory would be ethical egoism. This is looking at what is in the best interest of the person involved. In this case, it would be what is in the best interest of the social worker and how can she get what she wants. For her to turn a blind eye and not stop the problem would make it seem like she has the perfect case. There are code of ethics that are involved in this option. The first example would be the violation of service. The child would not be getting the full service of what they needed, and they would be neglected. This would also violate the dignity and self-worth of a person. A child who has been abused in the past cannot get punished by a spanking. This would also violate integrity because the social worker would be failing to do her job effectively. The social work practice theory that is involved in this example would be the family systems. Each family system has people who have different roles. There is boundaries, communication, and the family structure influences the family functioning. The father would be playing the role of being the authority figure in the family. The personal value that is involved in this example would be that spanking is okay. They would believe in the Bible in the verse Proverbs 29:15 that says, "The rod gives wisdom, but a child left to himself brings a mother's shame." This just shows that they would believe in spanking as an okay punishment for the child to have. The ethical theory for option 2 would be deontology. Deontology asks the question, what is rational or what ought I do? What is rational is to sit down and have a conversation with Reverend Parker to strengthen his parenting skills and to explain the effects of spanking a child who has been abused in the past. The social work code of ethics that go along with this option is that the social worker would be doing her job by serving the client by explaining to the father the effects of spanking a child who has been abused in the past. She is also showing dignity and self-worth of a person because she is showing that she cares and is concerned for the child and for the parents. She is showing that they are vulnerable to spanking because of their past. Finally, she is empowering the relationships by giving tips to strengthen the relationship and not just ending it. Children who are in foster care may have attachment disorders, so it is important to strengthen the relationships that they still have in their life. The social work practice theory that would go along with this option is the strength-based perspective. The strengths in this example would be that they are in a good home and they are with good parents. There are strengths already in place, so it is important to rely on those strengths and to keep them positive and feed off of them. A personal value that can go along with this option is James 1:9 that reads, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." This explains how the parents shouldn't just grow to anger and be frustrated with the children, but that they should listen and be slow to speak and help the children out. The ethical theory for option 2 is deontology. Again, deontology asks, what is rational, or what ought I to do? The social worker made the best ethical and safest choice for the children because she knew they had already been abused. She was trying to be the best social worker that she could be by being rational and doing the right thing. The social work code of ethics that are involved in this option are human relationships. Because these children have already been in different homes, their human relationships might be damaged, and by taking this extreme measure, it could damage human relationships even more. The social worker would be doing her job at serving the clients and doing what she thinks is best for them so that they will not get emotionally or physically abused again. The practice theory that is involved in option 3 is the conflict theory. When there's a conflict, you see it and the social worker tries to resolve it. Conflict theory involves power structures and that the power is impacting other people's lives. The power is unequally divided and some groups dominate over others. Conflict theory involves that life is characterized by the conflict and not the consequences. Social change is driven by the conflicts and that there's periods of change that are interrupted by stability. This would be the reverend having the authoritative figure in the family's life. The personal values that would be involved in this example could be that the social worker has seen examples like this in the past and she is fearful that the children are being abused again, so she is taking extreme cautions and doing what she feels is in the children's best interest.
Step 7. Consult with colleagues and appropriate experts. When making ethical decisions, it's important to gain understanding from other people in order to make an informed decision. There are 3 groups of people Ms. Roberts can rely on to get consultation. Her supervisor is the first one. Her supervisor is there for issues like this. Her supervisor will provide her with an excellent source of knowledge and expertise in the area. Her supervisor can also become involved in the case at some point if the issue persists. Her coworkers are the second group of people. Ms. Roberts can seek advice from coworkers to get another perspective on the situation. Her supervisor might give her a textbook response, but coworkers are more likely to be more open about what she can do. They have experienced similar situations and can give her their own personal experiences. Family and friends are the third group. Family and friends give Ms. Roberts an objective view. Her family and friends may not understand the agency and how it works, so this allows Ms. Roberts to get an objective look at the situation. Step 8. Make the decision and document the decision-making process. The option that seemed most rational is option 2. This allows for Ms. Roberts to educate the Parkers without jumping to any conclusions. After weighing the pros and cons, it's vital to not only keep the children together, but to keep them in a stable environment. However, this option does leave the possibility of Reverend Parker agreeing to abide by the rules and then disciplining them the way he wants behind closed doors. Ms. Roberts will have to watch the family extra close. With this option, it is also vital to give Reverend Parker and his wife extra parenting classes where they can meet other parents who are struggling with similar issues.